I guess maybe the best place to start would be, I'm sure you are hearing a lot of questions from parents. What's kind of the number one question you get, or the number one thing you wish you could, if you had a big megaphone, tell everybody who's dealing with back to school right now?
Well, I begin by saying that I think that, this is an unprecedented beginning of a school year, and it's new for teachers, new for parents, new for the staff, and us working together is what's necessary to ensure that our kids receive a high quality virtual learning, whether that's done, in a hybrid way or whether that's done, holistically. I think that, it's incumbent upon us to work together to ensure our kids get a quality experience during this time, and that we work together in collaboration to support that. We learned a lot, school systems learned a lot from the spring. And, at that time, in a way, we were what I refer to as almost thrusted into the remote learning environment. We were able to really learn what's worked well during that time and opportunities for improvement. And through my conversation with other school systems and, in our conversation here at Confluence, really putting all of the necessary structures and procedures and supports in place for families beginning the year this year. So, one of the major, I'd say, or main questions parents have asked is my child's education going to be the same? Is it going to be, compromised because of the virtual learning environment, or how might it be made better through the virtual learning environment? And that's an excellent question. I too am a parent, and so understand the importance of wanting to ensure that your child gets everything that they need and require. And so that's through that collaboration. That's through looking at the curriculum and the quality of the curriculum and its deployment, and your technology access, right? And ensuring that it's reliable and you have what you need. You have the devices and you're able to log on and, get connected easily with the learning environment. And then the supports in place, from the scheduling piece to the, the space at home, the environment, the structure, putting all of those things in place that allow for the start of the year to be successful.
I'm guessing educators would always encourage parents to be in communication with their child's teachers or even the administrators. It sounds like that's really important right now, that parents have to really reach out and make some calls, not wait for somebody to call them. Is that fair? What do you think?
Well, yes, I think that the expectation is upon not just the school system, but I think it is upon parents too, that we have to be ever diligent in asking those questions that we have, and asking, what's necessary for us to do, for parents to do, to be able to have their child be successful. So that communication vehicle is necessary. And so, districts have done a lot of work in that in terms of tech help desks and, by email, by call, by text. I mean, there's so many different communication vehicles now that we can use to communicate effectively. And I think that that's going to be necessary because we're not able to physically connect in ways that we used to. So if you think about it, when we as parents would drop our kids off in the morning, there was that connection time maybe then. Or at dismissal, there was that connection time then. Or the notes home that we would get from our kids, teachers. Well, that's being done far more electronically. And so it's necessary to make sure that we're connected. We have the right telephone calls, in place, the telephone numbers from the school district's website. There's so many ways to stay connected, and we need to be able to access all of those.
Might there also be more resources than parents are aware when it comes to just running things by somebody, or as far as helping me get internet access, things like that? Are there things that they might not know about?
Yeah, so, I mentioned earlier about one, I think parents' concern, or I should say that their attention to the curriculum and its implementation is necessary. And then two, I think I shared the internet access and ensuring that you have the capability and the reliability at home. But three, it's really the supports in place. So that is, do you know your child's counselor? Do you know your child's other supports that are available to you in the school that can assist with that? And if you need support with that, there are people there that can do that. So like for here at Confluence, we have counselors and social workers and learning specialists and the librarians. There's so many people that can help connect you to resources within the school, but also communal resources. Because when we think about it, there are families that may need meal assistance or just may need other assistance. And so there are people there that can support you in that as well. And so having access to that, asking those questions, what community resources, it might be, a local boys and girls club that can assist. It might be your local library that can assist. Knowing that and being able to access that to help support the family and the home, I think is necessary.
What are your expectations for this unprecedented school year? Is it to kind of just survive and maintain and the real learning will resume when we all get back together? Or do you see an opportunity? Can kids actually progress in this environment, do you think?
I think kids can absolutely progress in this environment. I think that this is an opportunity for us to learn how to do things better, how to ensure that we're getting to all learners. I have observed and have witnessed students that thrive in this remote learning environment. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as parents and as practitioners to really look at and focus on the child, how my child learns best, and then ensuring that you are choosing an education for your child that meets your child's needs. So I really think that this is an opportunity. I see it as a place of innovation. I see it as a place of starting, and seeing what opportunities emerge from itself. This has been an unprecedented time for school systems to collaborate. We as school leaders have been meeting, since early March about this, and when I say we, from St. Louis City schools to St. Louis County schools to archdiocesan schools to independent schools, because we all want our kids to do well and we all want our kids to excel. So the amount of collaboration that we've had has just been something I have not seen before in my career, in my tenure. So for us to learn from each other in that regard has been outstanding. And so I really see it as an opportunity for us to come together and say, what do our unique communities need? And then how do we work together to ensure that those needs are met?
I wonder if we adults have to remember that sometimes our young people are more adaptable than we are.
Yes.
And maybe don't put any limits on them. They might really, I'm not taking away from how hard this is going to be for so many parents and kids, but the kids might, the possibility that they could thrive in this might be better than we think it is.
Yes, so, I really do. I agree with that. I think that what I know about children and what I've observed, their resilience, their adaptability is generally better than us as adults. And so we're sometimes surprised, but I'm not sure why, because they are just great kids and they really rise to the expectation and to the occasions that we put, before them. And I think that this will be an example of that. I really do.
One place I think about where it really is going to be a pain point, if you will, if you're a parent, let's say if you're a single parent and you've got a job that does not allow you to work from home, and you also have home, now you have your child trying to learn from home. What do you say to those parents?
So that's a great question, because what we did and what we heard, we as school leaders, we heard that from parents. There were many surveys that went out across school systems asking parents, what will you choose? Do you want an all virtual setting? Would you like a combination of that with smaller class sizes? Or do you need in-person 5 days a week because you're an essential worker or you're a single mom, single parent home? We heard that, and they told us that in volumes, and I too, at Confluence, heard that from parents where they said, I need care, I need supervision. And so many of us have responded to that, Confluence is offering virtual learning support centers. And there are other schools that are doing that same thing, and community-based organizations where, yes, you're in a virtual setting, but we're allowing you to come in if you need supports with tutoring, supervision, meals, basically some of just the fundamental care that you would have had you been in person in a traditional, school year per se. So those families, there are options for that. And that's why I think the communication that we talked about earlier is necessary, and looking at and finding out what's available to you. And so there are options in places that are providing. School systems are doing that, as well as other community-based organizations. And it's just tapping into those to say, yes, I need care because I work a full-time job every day outside of the home, and I'm not able to, have the work from home or telework, as some organizations call it. I don't have that option. So we need to be able to provide that, and many school systems and others have delivered.
Yeah, that's good to know. And again, it's impossible to, as we talk right here, to tell every single person in every district how to find it, but back to that, reach out. That's good to hear, because you hear about that in some families that might be able to more easily afford it, where they, 5 of us are going to get together and hire a tutor and blah, 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 and they'll be in a little bubble with our kids. And it's like, well, not everybody can do that.
Exactly.
So it's good that that's happening.
Exactly.
So I do have a list of questions. Let me do a little bit of lightning round here with you, and we'll see. How are you going to, what about lunches? How do you provide lunches to students? Because that's a big part of school. We know we see that every summer, that kids need lunches.
So I will say that most systems have in place the waivers and have been approved for certain federal assistance or food service waivers that allow for meals to continuously be served. So I would say reach out to your local school system to learn about what those ways are. Oftentimes it looks like meal distribution. You can come and pick up those meals in bulk, or those meals in some places can even be delivered to your home. So it's really looking at what's accessible to you and then learning about that. That connectivity, that communication is so necessary. For Confluence, for us, that looks like Mondays, we're distributing 5-day meal baskets. So families come to us on Monday mornings and they're able to get those 5-day meal baskets for the week. And that supports both breakfast and lunch. That looks different. It just depends upon your unique community and what's available to you within your community and school system. But each school system is able to respond in some way. So just reaching out and saying, hey, I need some assistance. I'd like to know more about what's available to me in terms of meals, and then being able to respond to you.
This next question here, number 17 for our reference, for somebody listening to this, these are going to be random numbers, I think. So previously it was 13, this is 17. This person has, this is a very aspirational question that on one hand, the cynic in me says the answer won't be good, but at the other hand, it might touch on what you said about collaboration. They said, what is being done to ensure educational equity for all students in St. Louis? Gosh, that was a problem long before the pandemic, but what are you seeing in that arena now?
Yeah, so I'd say equity is a topic or an agenda item that is routinely brought up amongst school leaders. And in this collaboration effort that we had, or that we have, I'd say that equity remains at the top of the list in terms of what our community, our vast community needs. We look at it in terms of a St. Louis region, and we understand that there are going to be different needs across our community. And so as we look at equity, it's the reason why we are talking about internet access and ensuring that, across our St. Louis regional community, we're responding to that. So that is providing internet access to families who don't have it. Well, and that looks like hotspots, and that looks like preparing and helping with devices. So in some families' homes, there may have been already devices in place to support needs. In others, not. And so that school system's purchasing those devices to get them out and deploy them to the homes immediately or as quickly as possible, along with the access. It looks like the meals that we described or talked about earlier, where in some communities, maybe that's not needed as much. And in other communities, we need the meals. It looks like the virtual learning support centers, in place where I need care. I'm a single mom, or I'm an essential worker. I'm a healthcare professional. I need, someone to be able to support. So that looks like you going into a school that has that offering, or a community-based organization that can help in that regard. We really are looking at what are the individual needs of each community and responding to that. And I think that the ideas and the collaboration that we have as school leaders that helps with getting that out there, and also helps with managing that. I will say also that we've received great, resources from the state. So there has been aid that's been provided, and some federal dollars that has supported that effort. And so looking at that is, okay, if this particular community has a higher demand in something, then we need to be able to work toward that and be able to mitigate that. And that in turn helps to provide that equitable learning environment and access to a quality education.
And you were saying you're having these discussions, you're talking about, it's not just the St. Louis Public Schools talking among the different campuses, you're talking across county lines, across private, public lines?
That is correct. So what's so outstanding about this group of school leaders, this is St. Louis County, St. Louis City, charter, private, archdiocese, independent. This is all of us. So if you think about, we're not talking about sector here. We're talking about quality education for the kids who live in the St. Louis region. And that is important because really we are very much interconnected. Oh, yeah. And while we may live in one area, we typically work in another area, or our kids may go to this particular school, but we work or we live we're so interconnected, and we are better and I think stronger when we collaborate and talk across those lines to ensure that all of our kids, right, get what they need. And so the attention to that and the attention to equity is definitely a school leader priority in St. Louis.
And I apologize, is there a name that you've put to this group or an official organization?
Well, we work with EdPlus. So I think you all do some work with EdPlus, and EdPlus really serves as that kind of conduit or collaborative network. Okay. And those are weekly meetings that we're having to have that dialogue, as well as other small subset meetings that come out of that one larger weekly meeting. Okay. Yeah, I should have known that. I'm sorry. I will try not to keep you too much longer. If you need to go, tell me. Okay. But otherwise, I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have about 12 more, and maybe we'll just take them kind of as, because I think the answer to a lot of these we've already kind of probably discussed. But let me just throw them all out there, and just in case there's something new, and then I'll do these as fast as I can with you. For our recording purposes, this would be question 32. How are parents and grandparents supposed to help teach their children when they don't have teaching experience themselves? So I would say that grandparents and other just that supportive family kind of village doing and helping out, kudos to you first for stepping up and really providing some support to your children that matter to you and matter to us. So kudos for stepping in. And yes, at times it is a challenge because we've been out of the classroom for so long, and a lot of it, this learning is new to us. What I would say is be patient with yourself, be patient with your child or your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, because we will work through it. When you have questions, it's necessary to reach out to your school system. So, get on the phone and make a phone call and say, I'm really struggling with Google Classroom. How do I get in, or is there a way to get in? Connect with others. What I've also found is that oftentimes the kids will have friends in other classrooms that they can connect to, or families will connect across, schools or across classrooms. So it may be helpful for you to connect and say, okay, I'm struggling with how to log in or how to get this going. And so I really think it's the communication vehicle, seeing what's helpful to you or what's out there for you to access, and then, actualizing that. So again, kudos for stepping in, but I think at that point, if you're really struggling, there's the website. Oftentimes the website has, a step-by-step process, here's how to do this, that. There's some kind of tech support, that will come along with it. Or just, again, other families in your classroom or your kids' friends, they can be problem solvers for you too.
Communication, and don't be afraid to ask. I think a lot more people are in that place
Yes.
than aren't. Question 42, I'm just going to say we already answered. That was, I'm a single parent who has an essential job. We've already answered that one. That'll be in the previous conversation. This one is about, we've talked about this a little bit. This is a little bit about computer access. It says question 46. This person wants to know, with virtual learning, how will it work if I have 4 kids under high school age and only 1 computer in the house?
Mm-hmm. So if there is a number of students, of children in your family, and obviously there's going to be multiple teachers interacting with your particular child, I would really, in that regard, reach out to the school system and ask for additional devices. I think it's going to be necessary that you really survey and look at your home and your space and say, do I have everything that I need for my child to be successful? And in this case, if there are 4 students or 4 children at various levels here, right, and are going to have a number of teachers likely on their schedule, you're not going to really be able to be very successful with one device trying to move from child to child to child. So that way, in that case, I'd say, reach out to the school system and ask, are there additional devices for me? Because the likelihood of that is yes. And they will be able to give you what you need, because it's really going to be very helpful if each child has his or her own device, unless there's some way to work it out. And with 4 children, and some of those being high school kids, where oftentimes they're going to have multiple teachers. That's a high school student schedule. I don't foresee one device across all 4 kids working out. So that's where that reach out and saying, yes, I need additional devices, and I am confident that the school system will be able to provide you or put you in a place to be successful.
Question 49 is something we've already touched on, and kind of goes to what you just said too. They want to know about internet access. My 16-year-old son will do virtual learning. What are districts doing for students who don't have internet access? And we kind of answered that, but in a nutshell, reach out to your district, because there are resources that are making their way to the districts to then pay for hotspots to go out to families.
That's correct. I would say reach out to your school system and ask what available resources they have to help provide that internet access. There are also, different programs and again, those communal resources that are there that can assist with that, because you're going to need reliability. You're going to need, the Wi-Fi and just that capability of being able to connect. And if that's not, for whatever reason, applicable to you, find out where you can go. And so I have seen parents opt for, I'm going to, have my child visit a local community-based organization, or attend a virtual learning support center, or find a space where that internet access is reliable. But many districts have been able to supply hotspots and just other opportunities for connectivity to different, broadbands and different options that are out there for that purpose.
Yeah, this one we've touched on. Question 50, I'm a single mom with 2 kids in elementary school who will be doing virtual learning. How am I supposed to go to work? I could lose my job if I stay home with them. We've talked about reaching out and the resources potentially, but man, it's just heartbreaking, the stress that's got to be on. There's got to be, I think there's a lot of people in that situation. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah. And the best thing I can offer or advice in that, one, is to look at all of the options. Attempt to stay in a problem solving as best you can modality, and really reach out and say, what is available to me? I must work. share that with your school, share that with the people to whom you trust in terms of local, community-based organizations. I am confident that we will be able to respond. If you must work out of the home and you need care and supervision, there are going to be places following CDC guidelines and Department of Health recommendations and all of that. So I've seen it, it's there, face coverings and temperature checks and all of the screening mechanisms in place to support in-person support, to support us being able to come together and being able to have that care for families and that supervision and those meals. So it's really communication. And I think that that's necessary because we know that is definitely a need, and we are doing everything we can to respond to that need. So I really think if you reach out, you're going to be successful in finding a space that allows for your children to have that care and allows for you as parent to be able to go to work, and maintain, really the livelihood that you must have to support your family. And so that is what is necessary. And again, that is what we're all working. We understand the challenge, and that is why we're attempting to deliver in that regard.
Do you worry that there'll be some kids who slip through the cracks and whose parents have jobs that they have to get to, and the kids might just not make it to virtual school, or their parents might be overwhelmed? I know kids slip through the cracks pre-pandemic. Yeah. Do you worry about that even more now?
Yeah. Well, I do worry about that in terms of, I think we talked earlier about equity, and I think that's where that question, really surfaces. And I do worry that there will be kids that slip through the cracks. I will also say that we learned a lot from the spring. And, having said that, I think that school systems are putting so much support in place at the onset that allows for that to happen minimally. And then I go back to those structures and those supports around the classroom. So, one might ask, well, what does the counselor do during a virtual learning environment? What does the social worker do during a virtual learning environment? They are so busy because they are ensuring and connecting kids, to the classroom and to their teachers. And so they are looking at, are you attending? And they can do that. They are looking at, are you turning in your assignments? They're looking at your participation. They're looking at, even at times, we can see what time you logged on. Were you tardy? Were you not? We can observe that. You've got social workers that have caseloads that are connecting. They're calling. Some of them, even if they can't do a particular home visit like they may have done in the past, I have seen them drive up to the homes where the child comes to the door, and they're connecting in that way, to ensure, do you have everything you need? Is there anything you need from us? So again, and all of the technology that we do have in place, from text messaging to phone calls to emails, it really allows us to be connected. There's really not an excuse to not be connected. And so, slipping through the cracks, we have to do everything we can to ensure that does not happen. And we're just ever diligent about it. So it's that kind of monitoring, it's that kind of conviction that we all must have about our own kids learning. And that's the collaboration. It's really that family unit and that school unit working together.
The whole community. We got work to do, and I hope everybody buys in and sees they've got a role to play.
Yeah, very good.
Maybe that would carry over when all this is resolved. Let's see, that was, okay, that was 55 disabilities. Yeah, this is tough. So how will students with disabilities get service and support virtually when many are required to have job transition support that can't be taught online? Also, speech or physical therapy, are those things that schools are looking at trying to figure out how to do virtually?
Yes, so I will share that we refer to some of our populations as the vulnerable population in our school systems. That can look like students with special needs that receive special education services. It could be also our students who speak other languages. It could be that they require other supports relative to languages. It could be post-secondary work, as you described, where maybe they have classes or opportunities outside of the school, and those are now uniquely different because they're not able to go physically to those particular sites. I will share that many of those systems and services have been converted in a way to a virtual setting. So what we did think and learn about in the spring is how services can be deployed in a virtual setting, and we've seen that. So there are some speech and language services that we can provide in a virtual setting. There are some English as a second language services we can provide in a virtual setting. So we've done that. And then there are those populations of students that know it must be done in person. If you think about physical therapy, for example, well, there's some things that I can do as that physical therapy teacher to maybe mom or dad or grandma and ask them to do. And then there may be some that, require that in person. And there are opportunities for that too. So school systems have looked and surveyed their populations within their buildings and said, okay, maybe we do need to bring in this population of students either as soon as possible, or even right now, socially distanced with face coverings, following all of those guidelines to ensure that we're able to provide that level. So it's really looking at each individual child or each population and seeing how best service can be provided. Again, if you have questions though, so if I'm the mom of a SPED child and I am concerned about the quality, I need to reach out. I have a special education teacher, I'm sure. I have a principal, a counselor, and I'm saying, I need more information about how my child's services are going to be met. Can you help me with that? Absolutely. Here's what we can do, and then might be another opportunity or someplace else that we can even direct you to be able to help with that.
Great, that's good to hear. 61 who cannot afford childcare or private school. We've kind of touched on that. Anything else you want to say about that? I feel like we've touched on that.
Yeah.
Will money be allocated for students or parents for lunches or books? We talked about the lunches. I don't know if there's anything on books that you want to talk about.
I'd say, let's see. I'd say I'd start, or let's see, how do I start on that? I'd say something about ensuring that there's a quality curriculum and the curriculum is being deployed with quality as necessary. We are beginning the school year this year in a virtual environment, unlike ending the school year last year in a virtual environment. So when we ended, students already had quite a bit of the materials, supplies, relationships with teachers. This year we are beginning, right? Or we have begun in that way. And so because of that, it's necessary that all of those questions and any of those materials are given at the onset. So what you will find is that many systems have already scheduled days for pickup, come retrieve your device, get your textbooks, get your, materials and supplies. And then there is oftentimes with many curricula today, there is an online component. So you may see fewer textbooks just simply because a lot of curriculum today can be deployed in a virtual format. And so that's not necessarily new to the classroom. That's actually been there for quite some time, but you have teachers using it more often than maybe they would have used in the past. So really being very clear about what are the materials you're supposed to have, and then whatever those books and supplies are, ensuring that your child has them.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I think you'll like this one, and I'm curious what the answer is.
Okay.
This is going to be from a different perspective, someone who's looking to help. So this is question 70 for our purposes. This person writes in and says, I'm an empty nester. How can I help a student or teacher? Are schools or clubs looking for any volunteers to tutor kids?
So I'd say yes. I'd say that I think it's a collaborative, hands-on approach from, again, the schools community And the schools community are, yes, our school-age children as well as our parents, but there are neighbors and there are volunteers and there are friends, you know, with children that have already graduated, or there may be retirees. So I'd say oftentimes, as there is, generally speaking, the need for volunteers, even in the virtual format, there's even the need for more of that. And so those empty nesters can reach out to their school and ask, is there any way for me to support? And I'm confident, even if it's through the meal distribution methods that they just named, or it could be, you know, we've got book distribution that we need support with. Can you help us with that? Or it could be, you know, some virtual learning support centers need some greater help with getting, you know, people in and supervising. Reaching out to your school's community and asking, how can I help? I'm sure the hands or they'll be very pleased to hear from you and get you on board.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice thing to see someone wrote in. We've done internet. How can I get internet for my child's laptop if I don't have the money to get internet at home? I think we've covered that.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if you know this one or not. This is 75 on our end. Do we get extra food stamps in Missouri if our kids are doing virtual learning? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I do know that over the summer months, there was an effort where we have families who are already eligible for state aid or food subsidy. And those students that were families that were already eligible did receive some additional support or aid because of the pandemic. I would say reach out to the Division of Health and Senior Services to see if any of that aid continues. If you are or were not eligible at the time, then it's necessary to reach out to see what available resources might be available to you. So there was a period of time over the summer or spring, summer months where I know, again, families who were already eligible were given automatic, is my understanding, aid to supplement, you know, that virtual environment or students not being in the school and able to receive meals in that way. However, I believe that some of that has continued, and it's important that each individual family reach out. Division of Health and Senior Services can assist with that to learn what is applicable to me and being able to ask those right questions to get the services they need.
That's something we'll look into as well.
Yes.
Because eligibility may have expanded a little bit. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. And the length of time and the type, I think even the amount eligibility services, meaning I might not have been eligible then, I am now, or vice versa, or those ranges, you know what I mean, of income that impact eligibility as well.
That's great. I mean, those are the questions we had listed here. Let me just X out of this and make sure. Okay.
We good?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're fantastic. I look forward to doing some more of these with you.
Oh, thanks.
If you don't mind. So we'll continue. I think the overarching theme though is you gotta reach out and ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. If I could say, you know, it's a good time to really be very participatory and the advocacy is necessary. And so we're here and we know that we are in a place that requires all of us to work together in concert. And my need might not be your need. That doesn't mean it's not a need. And we need to be able to help each other in that regard. So, I think the communication is just essential now more than ever.
Well said.